What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves? Physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing the past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, you know, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And this is the healing technique that we've now been teaching it, well, since 2002, that's 12 years.
What if you could time travel with them? Visit mythical places or angelic realms, other worlds, other galaxies. Help others to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT, and now you can learn her method by going directly to dolorescannon.com. And don't forget to mention the discount code MORETALKS.
Established over 100 years ago, Watkins Books is one of the world's oldest and leading independent bookshops specializing in esoterica. We have the widest selection of esoteric books in the UK, and our friendly and knowledgeable staff are here to assist you in a unique ambience of our shop. So come and visit us in the heart of London as we're open every day.
The More Show is supported by Mindscape, Paranormal and UFO Matrix magazines, available for download on all major digital platforms. The comments and views expressed on The More Show are those of the people that make them and do not necessarily reflect the view of Kevin Moore, The More Show, or this radio station and its affiliate or sponsors. This show is for entertainment purposes only.
Broadcasting from the UK and across the world online. You're now watching the UK's only alternative late night talk show, and I'm Kevin Moore. For the next hour, I'll be covering subjects that will open up your mind and provide you with information you may have never heard before. On today's show, I'm joined with Mitra Rahbar, who at 17, Mitra Rahbar left her homeland due to political unrest. However, she would soon find her way in an unfamiliar land through an ever-deepening prayer life that led her to her soul's core. Now turning outwards, she pursued a life of service, first as a social worker and then as a spiritual teacher, healer and guide. Having worked with students from many walks of life for more than 30 years, Mitra has a deeper understanding of what spiritual seekers long to learn and how best to teach them. Now Mitra's latest book, Miraculous Silence, takes us on a journey into the sacred space of prayer and spiritual healing, providing practical guidance on how to pray and meditate, as well as many of her own prayers to inspire and encourage us. Now she also suggests images to visualize and meditate on, mantras to recite in every situation, and stones to aid in the healing process. In these practices, prayers and inspirations, you will find comfort, illumination and renewal. Mitra Rahbar, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here.
It's great to have you on, and a very interesting book, Miraculous Silence, A Journey to Illumination and Healing. Actually, that's not the full title, is it? What is the full title? Just tell the audience.
Miraculous Silence, a journey of illumination and healing through prayer.
Through prayer, that's the bit I was missing. Of course it is through prayer. Sorry about that. Well, I think that let's, with yourself to begin with, let's just start at the beginning here with yourself. Now, how would you class yourself? What would you class your purpose as?
My purpose is to be able to create healing, a synergy of healing and awareness, and give people the tools to be able to cope with everyday life through spiritual sacred practices. I'd say that is probably my primary goal.
Okay. Now, let's just get a bit of backstory about yourself as well, because I think this is really interesting. Now, you're not originally from the US. How did you get to the US? Where were you before? What's the sort of backstory here?
I'm actually born and raised in Iran. I'm from Tehran. And I came here around the time of the Islamic Revolution. And I've lived in different parts of the United States, and I yearly travel to the Middle East and Iran and do some work there, and that's a part of my heart. So I've been raised in an international school, so I have kind of like a global perspective, and been here for mostly my college education and have stayed many years later to work and all that. But I consider myself now more a global citizen, of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. When you moved to the US, did you move with family?
No, I moved. Well, I had like a family member or two here, but I basically came, here, and my primary family was in Iran, and it was very difficult for me because I was young and it was hard to part with them. But I came and had a lot of hardships. Being a young immigrant is very hard, especially when your family is away. But I think it's through that hardship that I really turned inward and found a life of spiritual purpose.
Absolutely. I can imagine that was a really, really tough time. And it's through those tough times that I hate to see people go through pain, but it's through those tough times that we seem to grow in ways that we wouldn't do otherwise.
Yes, there's an old Persian saying that says, it's the candle of a flame that as it burns, it creates light. So it is a little bit through hardship that we get to grow. We usually don't grow as much through easy times, but it's through the hardships of life.
Absolutely. Now, you're a sensitive?
Yes, I am. I'm a sensitive. I've been a seer since I was very, very young, probably 11, and that's just come with me into this life.
What is it like to be a seer, a sensitive in a country like Iran? And what is the norm for people that come out to say that they are?
Well, Iran is a very mystical society, and their intuition and insight and foresight is very much ingrained in the culture of Iran. It's not, how do I say that? There are many people who are seers who are later on, like, they become mystics, it's very much tied in with the spiritual phenomena. So it's not really unusual. I would say probably every family or every two families has someone in the family who has really good intuitive energy. I think it's more a phenomenon when I left Iran. It was a bigger deal than when I was in Iran. Also, I was very young, and I was very much more intrigued by it, and it was very fun to do readings for my friends in high school and for relatives and all that. I didn't really realize the importance and the responsibility of it until I really stepped into my 30s. I would say then I realized more the importance and how your words carry weight and all that goes with it.
Yes, absolutely. But I'm just intrigued about in nowadays society over in Iran. How are people with these gifts looked upon? Are they looked upon from a negative stance point, and it's dangerous to come out, or can people be prosecuted for such gifts?
I don't think so. I think it's very much it's so deeply ingrained in our culture.
Right.
We have actually even one of our most famous poets known throughout the world, Hafiz. We have always had a very ancient tradition where people open up their like passages of Hafiz as a passage to give them insight.
Yeah.
So it's very much ingrained in the Middle Eastern traditions to have seers and astrologers and all that. It's I don't think it's looked down upon.
No.
I think in any society you're in, it's kind of a mystery to many people, and they sometimes think of it as some people are not as open to it. Some people are more open to it. Some people will look at you as like you're a witch. Some people will look at it as you're there to guide them. So I think that goes globally. I think in Iran also probably the same.
Interesting, very interesting. I mean, this is my naivety in a sense. I always thought it was looked upon as witchcraft, potentially. But I mean, I've only ever met one. I've lived with someone who was from Iran. I mean, but obviously she wasn't a sensitive, but she had fled Iran to have a better life in the UK. We were housemates, believe it or not, because my ex-girlfriend was Malaysian and she'd gone to Malaysia from Iran, and both had ended up in the UK. But yeah, it's a country that's it's developing, isn't it? Still.
Yeah, I'm. To me, I always see the heart of something. I always see the heart of people or the heart of a country. To me, the heart of Iran is a beautiful nation full of mysticism, poetry, and a rich culture.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's how I choose to experience it. And that's how I choose to give to it, to be of service to it. And the rest of it is not, is not something that I don't, that's how I usually see things. And it makes life in a way more rich for me. So
Yes.
I appreciate that.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I mean, I've never had anyone, an Iranian, on with your gifts. It's very, very fascinating to meet you, and it's while I've got you on, I want to know. So yeah, thank you for sharing that with the audience. It's really, really interesting. Okay. Well, just out of curiosity as well, was there anyone else in your family with your gift?
Yes, there was. My aunt, my mother, and my great-grandmother all have this gift.
Incredible.
However, I think the difference is, first of all, I do believe that we carry many generations of our past within us. So I believe this gift is just not mine, but it's probably their pent-up energies that's come to me to have this gift, because I was very embracing of it. I never, even when I did not want to have it, I did not ever turn my back to it. And I let it just come to me. And I think a lot of people who have this gift, they get scared about it and they want to shut it down. And when you shut it down, it's like denying a part of you. So yes, there were people in my lineage who had this gift, but I think I probably had this gift more to a maximum level, or experienced it more and expressed it more to a maximum level. They probably did not have those opportunities to do so.
No. Well, it's really fascinating, the gift that you've got, and the gifts that you've got, shall I say, and that you've gone down the path that you have, or you've chosen to open certain doors and gone with what feels right all the time, and intuition, and it's led you to your this book as well. I suppose you could say what inspired you to write the Miraculous Silence.
Well, you know what I've always said, Kevin, that I say it in the book. Say I've swam against the tides of my culture, my peers, my age. But I learned through a little bit hardship that these were my tides, that I didn't have to be like everyone else. I didn't have to have the same sort of follow the same pattern they did. And it took a while to adjust, but once I stepped into those shoes, then it kind of soared on every level. And I think they're all related, interrelated. When someone says, well, you're a seer, but you're a spiritual teacher and you write, I think it's all from the same source. And to me, it's not surprising, that's why you see, for example, many readers, psychics, intuitives, and you'll see, God, they've written plays, they're wonderful, creative people. It's all from the same source. It's allowing the mind and heart to open, to feel full realization. That's what it's about.
Now I know this is going to be a fascinating interview, because I know you've got some really good ways, good information that you're going to bring through in this interview that you've discovered or rediscovered yourself, like a truth that I think is a really interesting truth, and we will get into what I'm saying. Now, just with the book, obviously it's all based on the importance of the power of prayer. What is the power of prayer, and why is it important?
The power of prayer is very important because it is critical to our self-realization, to see the light within us, to know that we are part of something that is great. We're not a part from it, but part of it. So in the power of prayer, it's it's realization of the self. It's to hear the whisper of the truth of the self, so always to be guided by that. And then at its height, it is the communion that we make with the source, whatever we feel we want to call the source. We want to call it God, we want to call it universe, we want to call it an energy. But that's really the ultimate. And I feel the power of prayer is healing. I feel it awakens us to us, and us to one another, and us to the universe. So there's a lot of power behind prayer, and whether it's singular prayer or collective.
Right, okay. And in your book as well, it's sort of chaptered from sort of devotional prayers, inspirational prayers, prayers for healing, prayers for illness and loss, special occasions, seasonal, and sort of day-to-day hopes. I mean, that's it really is packed full of all the areas that will bring you into a more fulfilled and happier lifestyle, I'm guessing.
Yes, and you know what it has also? It has sections on sacred space practices, what they mean and how to do them. Example, mantras. Examples, meditation, visualization, the use of gemstones or stone healing. This is all part that we can also incorporate or do separately from our prayer practice. So there are those sections or chapters, and then there are stories that are real life stories that I give examples of different things that through my students, through my clients, through my own life, that is really interesting. It's insightful. So it is a book on prayer. However, it is about the journey to prayer and the illumination and healing that occurs on this journey. And that's why on many of the prayers, there are mantras, there are stones, there are different visualizations, meditations, breathing. So it's and explanations. So it's a book to me that is not only prayer, but it's a book on healing. And it's for everyone and anyone. It's global. We all share the same experiences. We all lose people. We all have triumphs. We all have difficulties. And this is about it all.
Yes, and that's what's so important about this book as well. Let's just go into some of these areas as well. Now, we talked about pain. We've talked about pain there as well. Less anxiety, less depression in our life. What causes it, anxiety and depression, do you think? And what can we do to heal that side of us?
There's many reasons, I think, for anxiety and depression. First of all, it could be chemically based, and that's a different story. But it also can come from sometimes the lack of realization of love, self-love, which helps with confidence, which helps with releasing ego. And so also when we don't live our life of truth, when we don't listen to that voice within us, that creates anxiety, expectations that are not fulfilled, the guilt, the regret, the anger that just goes layer on layer. This is all kind of heavy on our soul. I say this, that we are wearing like a big metal armor, and it's thousands of pounds on our little frames. So we have to peel this off like an onion, one by one. The anger, the guilt, the greed, the jealousy, the things that are not fulfilled within us, within our lives. And as we do, the anxiety decreases and the depression lessens. And then we see, wow, without this armor, I actually have a different frame. I look quite different, but I can carry this weight really well too, probably much better. So I think the depression and anxiety are pounds and pounds of things that we have not coped with or dealt with, maybe because we couldn't, maybe because we didn't have the tools or the time, or maybe because it was too painful and we didn't know how.
Yeah. Could it also be due to not thinking that you're able to fulfill certain things in your life? Like maybe, you feel that, am I ever going to meet the right person, even though I know I want a spiritually balanced person? And when you think you've got one, it's never that person. And and the loneliness and the sort of day after day same things going on, and it's nothing seems to change kind of attitude that people go through. Does it have to be from past? Could it be what's going on in the present, or is it all the same?
Exactly. You know what, Kevin? We all want to feel we have someone special. We all want to feel that love and that we've come home within ourselves with someone else. Now, does it happen for every person? We can't answer that. And I think that's where faith, and when you work on your spiritual evolution and growth, that's where you surrender to the ways of the universe, because everything is not in our control. Actually, very little is in our control. We can't control the earthquake. We cannot control the thunder or rain. And there's certain things cosmically we cannot always control. And surrendering to me is not about giving up. It's about giving in to the splendor and the wisdom of the universe. So when I sometimes have a student and they say, I've looked my whole life, I'm 72 years old, I've never met somebody that I really loved, I've never met my soulmate, how do you explain that? And I say very honestly, I cannot explain it, because I cannot, and I don't think anyone else can. You can do everything in the world, but sometimes when something does not open, it does not always open. And that's where, you surrender. And when someone says it's not fair, I say, but we have to, when we surrender, we accept it, and that gives us peace. How can you explain a mother who's lost a child? How can you explain a person who suddenly gets paralyzed? Are those things fair? I'm sure they would say no. But there is the act of surrendering. So yes, we all want those things. We expect those things. They're not our right. They're our gifts, and that's where I really say that to people. It's our gift. If you have one person in your life, that's your gift.
But then,
If you have your arms and legs, that's your gift. It's not just a right, then those people who don't have those things, what do they say?
Yeah, well, very interesting what you're saying. It so is. Oh God, there's so many threads to what you've just said. Actually, okay, surrender. Now that's we'll get into that as well. But when we say, is it right for a mother to lose her baby? Is it right for you never to find someone, the right person? Well, it's difficult, isn't it, to say that these things, there's a bigger picture going on.
There's a much bigger picture. And if you believe in past life, which some people, I'm sure, who are listening do and some people don't. If you believe in reincarnation, or you study any of the philosophies, ancient philosophies, it gives you a piece of knowing that we each come into this life for a purpose or multiple purposes. And sometimes being human, we want to have the things that we think, quote, most people have. But I think that's where it becomes a little bit dangerous for the soul. We're each here for a different purpose. And if we follow the purpose, that will lead us to an inner fulfillment and happiness. And that is always given to us because that's our purpose. So the problem comes when we look at elsewhere and trying to find all these other things that may be part of our journey, but they may not be. Like when I came here when I was a young girl, I was away from all my family. And I had to endure a lot of hardships, where I would see a lot of high school students here who go home for Christmas and Thanksgiving and to their families, and I would be all alone. And I would question, why am I not with my family? Why was I not like some of my friends who stayed? But then as I matured and I went more inward, I understood my purpose. And once I understood my purpose, I understood that I had to come here to do the work here, to then be able to do the work and give it to the world. So in each one of our small or big ways, there's no small ways and there are really no big ways. We're each here for a purpose. I think as long as we're doing our purpose, there is some level of fulfillment, and everything else is icing on the cake.
It's so true what you're saying. Yes, it is. As you've said that, as we follow our purpose, we're going more in tune with who we really are, with our joy. Maybe following our purpose today is going for the walk. The mind saying, well, don't do it, that's illogical, but the heart's saying, go for that walk because maybe you're meant to bump into someone, or maybe there's some aha moment that's going to come to you that's going to give you the idea that you were looking for, the solution you were looking for. And by going with intuition and purpose and happiness, it just creates more and more and more of what you came here to do, because we came here for joy. I'm sure we did, and by going down that road, it can only bring that to us, I think. What's your thoughts on that?
I 100% agree with you, 100%, and that's why I think prayer is a powerful part of that journey.
Yes.
I think meditation is a powerful part of that journey. It cannot be done without it. Really, it cannot be. Self-realization, understanding the self cannot come without sitting with the self. It just cannot come. And there are no shortcuts to it. And I think, to decrease this clutter and chatter that we're now feeding ourselves so much, through the telephone, through the television, through the internet, is just, the soul is craving, yearning, screaming, I want to just be with you. I want to be with nature. I want to be with, quote, my maker. And we have to heed that call. We have to take that call and say, I'm going to honor you and give you that. I'm going to give you back yourself. And once you do, it's a journey. I remember Dr. Scott Peck, 2-3 decades ago, wrote a book called The Road Less Traveled. He's a psychiatrist, wrote a beautiful book. And always to me, the road less traveled is the road that few people want to take That's the road of self-realization and self-awareness. But once you get on that road, once you take the first step, you will never get off, because it gives you back 1,000-fold what you put into it. It gives you back you. And then through getting back yourself, you realize that your answers may be different than the answers that others have told you are your answers. You know, your questions may be even different. Your steps may be different. And you need to honor yourself. And I think that's a big thing to learn in this life. If you can learn to honor yourself and to surrender, truly surrender to the light within you and the light around you, I think that is, believe it or not, 90% of the elevation we need to do in this life.
So to surrender then, how do we do that? Is it just a case of I give up? I
No,
give up
no.
and I let whatever. I mean, yes, I'll still direct my life to the and still use manifestation to direct it, but I give up trying to have to change what I can't change.
I think to surrender means to allow. I think to surrender means to let go of the fist. I always say, if we do this, if we tighten our fist, how can anything have any room to get in there? But if we do this, then there is so much space. And this to me is surrender. Just saying, oh, let me see what will enter this space, rather than trying to hang on to something and having the biggest expectation of it, setting our soul up and putting that pressure on the soul, but rather say, okay, open the hands, I surrender. And if you look at a lot of, it's interesting how everything is so linked together. If you look through history, if you look at whether the Christian way of praying or the Muslim way of praying or the Buddhist way of meditation, where, hands are open, this is surrender. And I think this is surrendering. It's not about giving up. It's about giving into the splendor of the universe by allowance, by allowing.
When you're down and feeling quite unhappy, it can be very difficult to see that that opening of surrender to be a possibility that's going to be the answer.
Yeah, surrendering, Kevin, though, takes time to get there. It's like somebody who wants to lose 100 pounds. It takes time. It's not a journey of one day or 1 week or 1 month or even 1 year. It's a journey of steps. And yes, when you're down, it's very hard. It's very hard. And I think one thing that we have learned in Western society is to deny ourselves when we feel down. We quickly want to feel up and happy. And I think it's sometimes we have to allow ourselves to feel the pain, to feel the anguish and know where it takes us. It's like walking through a hallway. We have to walk and see all the webs and feel the darkness, and our eyes see the darkness to see the ray of light. It's a journey, and I think it's not good to sit in depression and darkness for a long time. But it's really honoring the self, to allow yourself to not feel perfect, to not feel joyful every minute, to cry, to feel pain. That's okay. That's being human. And I think one thing I love about Eastern culture is, for example, when someone dies, a lot of people wail. It's been throughout history. They wail. And they let it out. They wail. And, some people, used to pound the ground with their fist. In different cultures and traditions, we see that. They release it. Nowadays, we feel a little tear come on. We quickly say, why am I crying? Why do I feel bad? Quickly, I want to put a movie to feel better. I want to, say a joke to hear a joke to feel better. I think to honor the self, you have to honor all of the self, all the twists and turns and tides. It's like an ocean wave.
Yeah.
To have a crash until it becomes the wave again.
And sometimes when you honor the pain, someone will pop in your life to give you maybe the answer you're looking for. And it could be as simple as, well, it could be as simple as this, that if you could see yourself happy, what would that be doing? What would that life look like in a couple of years? And then to try to look at the gap between now and what you think would be where you'd like to go, and to really work out how you would get there. And ask the universe through prayer, as in a book like your book, to get to that point, and embrace prayer as a daily thing. But what I'm saying is to when you, as I agree with you, when you are down, or you're not living the life you're meant to be living because you're going against yourself, that by honoring it, then there's a way forward sometimes that you can't see.
There's lots of times you can't see, and when you can't see, you just have to say, okay, right now I can't see. I don't have the clarity. I can't see. And I think if you pray all the time, every day, or meditate every day, I think it's kind of like you feeding your soul every day. I always say you can't pray once in a while, you can't meditate once in a while and expect it to give you all that it can give you. It's like eating once a week. You can't survive. And we've allowed ourselves so much time for everything else, to get a workout, to eat, to talk on the cell phone, to sleep. But we don't allow ourselves the most essential thing, which is creating a space every day for ourselves, even if it's 5 minutes.
It's so true. It's so true. I think there was 3 points you made, or would say that probably don't judge ourselves, be patient, and live in the heart, not the mind or ego. So let's just look at those 3 things just very briefly.
Well, first of all, generally why we shouldn't judge ourselves is because we're going to be the harsh judge. We're not going to be the loving parent. We're not going to be the loving parent that says, Mitra, it's okay, you did this. You'll do it better next time. We'll be the harsh judge saying, why did you do this? So that's why judging ourselves usually doesn't serve us, because we're just putting ourselves further down and criticizing ourselves, and it's void of love. And patience. We need to have patience with ourselves, patience with the world. I may want something right this moment, but that doesn't mean I'm ready for it, even if I think I am. And maybe I'm supposed to wait for it because maybe the definition of what I want will change. And maybe it's not time yet. And also, I always say the heart and the wisdom of the mind is in the heart. The heart and the mind actually are very close. When the heart really understands something, the mind always agrees. It's when they're in synchronicity and in harmony that really, that's our truth. But where the ego is where fear is. And where there's fear, it's where there is a void of love, a void of belief, a void of knowing. And that's where the ego comes in. And it's very, intricate. It's all very woven together. When there's ego, a lot of ego, the judgment is very different. The patience is very different. The surrendering is different. When you put the ego aside and you understand and you live through your heart center, then there's much more truth. And truth can never be anything but light and love. It's because it's void of ego.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's got a different truth, but like you say, when your truth comes from light and love, it doesn't matter what it is. It comes from that space. So they all lead, light and love all lead to the same path, which is essentially who we are.
Yes, exactly. It leads you to the seed of your soul.
I like that.
And the seed of the soul is where you're created. So it's only light. And someone, once said, oh, my truth is telling me this and this and this. So that's not your truth. That's your ego telling you this and this and this. So again, what I mean by truth, I mean when there is void of ego and you're at the light center, you're at the heart center, you're at the God center. That's what I mean. Yes,
absolutely. And Okay, even with your book, people may say, well, okay, I've read the book and it's fantastic and I love the prayers and everything else, but my life's still full of tragedy, upheavals, and pain, and where's the less anger? Where's the more blissful space? What I'm saying is that no matter how spiritual you may be or into these subjects as we've spoken about today, you're still going to be challenged with these in life.
Just because you're human and you're here to learn. Praying and meditating and being a person who lives in their truth does not mean you are going to be not affected, not have things happen to you or for your loved ones. That's not how it works. But it means your response, your reactions will be different. Your acceptance will be different. Your surrendering will be different. A person, for example, who we take two people, for example. Let's say two people, one person gets in a bad car, both of them get in a bad car accident, where it's very devastating and they lose a body part, which is tremendously hard, very hard. And they both have to do a lot of work to regain that body function again. I will say the person who's worked on themselves, has had faith, would probably sit less in depression. I will say they will probably believe that through this most tragic thing will come a light, will come a deeper purpose for them. And this is where I take lessons from history. I look through history. I look at people like Nelson Mandela. I look at people like people in the Holy Scriptures, like, Jesus, Moses. I can name many. And I'll see a lot of their lives have had difficulties. But through the darkness comes the light. It's a person who may lose a body function, and then maybe he's supposed to help those who want healing or understand healing in that area. So yes, a life of prayer and meditation is not for us to do because, because we're thinking we're protecting ourselves. No, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that for even the sages and prophets. It's just that we're trying to become a better person and be more in tune with the universe and elevate ourself to, be better citizens of this world and be better to our own self and those we love around us.
It's hard sometimes, isn't it? Because, you think to yourself, well, this particular situation that didn't happen for whatever reason, it would have been, I'd have loved to have experienced that. Why didn't it happen? This would have been perfect. It's difficult sometimes to accept that there's things happen for the best of you, because you almost think, well, it would have been so lovely to see the other side, not just to see, well, this is for the best of you. It's difficult to see the good, isn't it?
It's so true. It's so hard, Kevin. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. For example, I've had so many students tell me, for example, they want to be a mother. They never got a chance to be a mother. They never were able to give birth. They don't understand it. 10 years later, they don't understand it. It's very hard. When it's personal, it's very hard. And it's very easy for someone to come and say, okay, well, you look at this way, and it will change. But I will say it's hard to swallow a lot of things in life. Life is not easy. It's not easy for the people who have, quote unquote, the easiest, best life that we think. But it's almost like when we have developed this faith within us, it's our anchor. That it's almost like the ship that is being hit by the storm. It may sway a lot, but it's not going to go down. And that faith, helps us. It helps us understand better, maybe not always. It helps us accept better, maybe not always. I myself, who have spent 30 years of my life every day in meditation, every day I have been meditating. Lots of times I have a lot of hard time with what the hand of life gives me. Lots of times I don't understand it. Lots of times I question it, but at the end of my question will come, well, I'm sure you know much better than I do, God. And I accept this. It's hard, very hard, but
just this take away though from the power of manifestation.
no, because some things can be manifested, some things cannot. If someone says everything can be manifested, I don't think so. I think manifestation is a wonderful phenomenon. I think many things are manifested, but many things are supposed to manifest differently than what we think or want. So, for example, a person who is blind cannot manifest to see. It's very hard. He can have a positive attitude. He can have different kind of medical surgery, scientific. He cannot manifest that. You can manifest many things, but you cannot manifest everything. So yes, manifestation is a wonderful phenomenon, but I think surrendering is equally, if not more important. Because manifesting is wonderful as long as it becomes not about the ego and expectation. Like I wanted to manifest this book. I worked 7 years to create this book, and I manifested it, and I'm putting it out in the world. Now, if I want to manifest, for example, going on this show and that show, I will try, but it's not only within my power to do that. And that's, I think, a key thing in realizing that I can try my best. And sometimes things will happen. And sometimes, you know what? They won't. And that's okay. The book will take its own journey. And I think that's a key thing, in manifestation, especially in this century. Like, we can manifest a lot, but the things that the universe, has that we can't get around. And that's, as a reader, I've always said that there's willpower and there's destiny. And when you believe in reincarnation and karma and kismet, there are things we can change, but there are things we accept, and there's grace. That's being very good. That's living through grace.
No, it's very beautiful what you're saying here. Don't get me wrong at all. It's very, very... I just love what you're saying. As I said at the beginning of this interview, I knew you was going to be saying stuff that was going to be very profound, as you've just said there, and lots that you've said. But what about what you've just said there in the sense of regret? What if we look back with regret at not trying? Or at regret at not taking the other option where we could have done? Does surrender help us get through regret, or is again regret something that's we can't escape?
Well, you know what? I think we come back to this. If we live in our truth, the truth which is void of ego, which is therefore void of fear
and intuition,
and filled with intuition and insight, then we would have less regret because we would be living our truth, therefore taking steps that our truth, our soul yearns and asks for us. When we have regret, it's two things. First of all, it's because we think we have not fulfilled the expectation of ourselves or others that have expectations from us. And there's a judgment there. And also sometimes it's because we feel we did not live in our truth, so we did not take action when we could have.
Right. Okay.
There's two kinds of regret.
No, that's so fantastic what you're saying. Yeah. How then do we really get into listen to our truth? What if we feel so blocked, and we don't know what our truth is telling us? even if it's talking to us
The
when we're
journey of
asking.
steps, it's delayering the onion one by one. And it starts with, I really mean this, it starts with the breath. I always said the healer is the breath, because it's in breathing that we inhale love and joy and pain and anguish and anxiety. And it's in the exhale that we release any of these. So if we start with 5 minutes a day of whether it's a walk, a fast walk, it's conscious of the breath, it's meditation, it's prayer, slowly the blockages one by one come off. And if we are blessed, are able to have someone help us in this way, whether it's a spiritual teacher, whether it's a therapist, whether it's a seer, help us, then wow, then we are able to, like I said, take this off one by one. And then we see an us that we did not see before. That us is the child within us, how we are born into this world, but the layers have come on top. I once gave a talk where I went on the podium, the stage, and I had a lot of layers of clothes on me. Actually, this talk was in the Middle East. I had 2-3 scarves on, 2-3 jackets on. Nobody could see me, really, my face. Nobody could see really what I look like. I took the first jacket off, the second, the first scarf. Then you could see Mitra. It's the same thing of the soul. You cannot do this in a day, but you can start today. You cannot do it in a day, but you can start today. And when you start today, in a month, I will tell you for sure you will be in a different place. And a year from now, oh my gosh, in a very different place. Your perspective will change. Your perception will change. Your needs and desires will change because it will be void of ego.
And when we compare as well, as we've said in this interview, we were talking about, surrendering. But before that, we mentioned about relationships where, why am I alone and other people seem to be so happy with who they're with, or just in this perspective. And I wanted to say to you, well, actually, we can't judge. We don't know how happy these people are. We don't know if it's a relationship of convenience, if there's lots of things being learnt between these two people that really we wouldn't want in our space, because we just don't need to experience that, And another thing as well, not to be judgeful in any events. I think that's important, not to judge.
Yeah, it's very important not to judge. And you know what? You said something very key here. I'll tell you, 33 years I've been doing my work here in the United States. And I have not seen any person come to me that has not had some kind of challenge. We always see the outside. We see the beautiful house outside, the picket fence. We don't know what goes inside that house. We don't know what goes inside a relationship. I use this story in the book, and this is one of my favorite real life stories. And it's a class I had, actually a mediumship class I had, workshop, where I was channeling spirit, where there were 2 women in this class. One woman, physically beautiful woman, very affluent, actress, beautiful children, affluent husband, and another woman who I did not know, beautiful woman too. And the woman that I did not know was smiling throughout the class. So at the end of the class, the other woman, who was an actress, raised her hand and she said, "Can I ask you, you're smiling throughout the class. What is your secret? What is it that you possess?" She goes, "Well, I'm jobless. I don't have a car. I barely have a job. I don't have any living member in my family living. My mother passed away a year ago. I don't have a boyfriend. I have no children." The woman was shocked. She goes, "I have a husband. I have 2 beautiful children. I have a wonderful career. I have money. I have home on the hills. What is it you have?" She says, "I have all this." And we all knew what she meant. Meant she has that perception. She goes, "I have this moment. I have the trees. I have my breath. I can see." She understood that what you need is to see with the eyes of the heart. And that's what that other woman was not able to do. So it's not what we have that's important. It's how we see that is important.
Do you ever have doubt? That's so beautiful for sharing that. Thank you. Do you ever have doubts in your work? I mean, you're saying this to us right now. Do you ever doubt it?
Never. I never doubt my work. I never doubted this journey. I've sometimes not wanted, as a young woman, to be able to have this sense of what we call recite, which means mission. Recite is Arabic. I think it's an Arabic word. I'm not sure, but it means this thing that I came in this world to do. Sometimes I wish I had not had it, but now that I know I have it, I fully embrace it. I've never doubted my work. I've never doubted it. No.
You're an amazing person. You really are. With the strength
I'm
that you
very
have.
human, though. I'm very
can-
human. I always say in my classes, I get anxiety. I've had a history before because of my immigration. I developed phobias. I'm a very emotional person. I'm very real in the way that I feel everything. I'm not a sage on stage.
But the way you express your truth, though, is very honest and
Yeah,
very helpful.
Yeah, I always say, but it took me a lot of work. It took me a lot. When I was in my early 30s, and my friends would always say, "Oh, we're going out at 11 o'clock." I would always say, "Oh, I have to go home." I always felt I have a date with God. I always said that. I've said it in the book. It was the best part of my day. But that's what I did. I devoted part of my life to healing because I needed to heal.
Yes.
I needed to heal from my wounds.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I was going to say to you, what is the most important message of the book? I think you've answered it, but if I could just ask you that and see what you say.
I think for our world, for ourselves, the only way to heal is really through sitting with God. That's really the message of the book. And I think in our world, we see how much anguish the world has had just in the last 3-4 weeks. And, this book is for everybody, any age, whether they're in a hospital, in a prison, in their homes, in a shelter. And books like this, not to be read, but to be felt, to be practiced. I don't want someone to just read this book. I want them to practice it. There's a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've really, really enjoyed this interview, and it's powerful stuff you've said, and I'd just like to say thank you so much for sharing this with our audience, and I definitely would love to get you back on in the future.
Oh, thank you. It's been such a pleasure. I just really felt such a good synergy here. I really did, and I'm so thrilled you had me on. It's just wonderful. And I thank everyone who tuned in and listened. And I wish everybody a happy and healthy and peaceful New Year.
Well, Mitra Rahbar, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Well, we've come to an end on tonight's show. Don't forget that you can listen and watch all our past interviews on the More Show's official YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new daily shows. You may also find out more on all past and upcoming guests on the show via themoreshow.co.uk, and do like us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates. So until next time, be safe.